Good morning all. This is a Silvercrest nose and ear hair trimmer. It was in Lidl and it was reduced to £1, and I stared at this for a while and I thought, you can't make a video about a nose and ear hair trimmer. There's nothing in there, battery, motor and a cutting blade. But then I noticed this, the part number, SNOT 1.5 A1. And I thought that's mildly appropriate for a nose hair trimmer. So let's see if there is a video in this. Let's open it up, take a look inside. Oh look, it's worth it just for the battery, single AA and trimmer. Now the only thing really that I can think of to make this interesting is a prediction. Is there a motor in the entire world driven from a 1.5 volt battery that could drive a fairly high resistance cutting blade without a gearbox? In other words, does this have a gearbox in it? So let's get the battery and this ridiculous 3-bristle brush. Put the battery in here. Okay. Oh, there's a O-ring there. Oh yes, it did have an IPX rating, didn't it? Oh yeah, IPX4. So let's shove that in, start this thing up. Now the first thing is to listen. Does that sound? I think that does sound like a gearbox. There's a lot of things touching other things. Let's take it apart, because I have no intention of using this nose and ear hair trimmer despite my advancing years. Now this bit comes off the end and there's a shaft which we can watch turning. Oh, that could be direct drive to the motor. Maybe there is no video in this. Yeah, that goes pretty fast, doesn't it? So I don't think there's any point taking this apart, because this is just literally battery, sort of modestly clever mechanical switch type thing to connect the battery to the motor, and a 1.5 volt motor. I think we're done with that, but this looks quite interesting. In fact, I'll bring the camera down. Let's pull out this blade assembly, and that's quite fussy, isn't it? Quite fiddly. So your nose and ear hairs might drop into these slots. Imagine the tip of this pen is a hair. Might drop in that way, or they might go in that way. And on this blade assembly there are actually cutters for both those orientations. The tops of these blades rubbing against these folded over bits to cut hairs which go in end on, and the sides of these blades rubbing against these lower down slots to cut hairs that go in laterally from the side. So yes, and spring loaded to ensure that the blade is kept in a tensioned contact with the inside of this metal, whatever you call it. So these springs push the blades outwards and keep that edge in contact with the metal. I don't know what the word is for that. If anyone knows, tell me. Yeah, that's what that spring does. But what keeps these top parts of the blades in contact with the top part of this thing? I believe it's the spring in here. There's a little coil spring in there, which means that this assembly, the blade assembly, is tensioned upwards into the end of this nozzle. I'll call it a nozzle. So yeah, you've got the two separate tensioning mechanisms, the coil spring in there and the two lateral springs holding the blades out. Quite clever. So I found a hair on the floor, not mine. You'll be pleased to know. Mine are all grey anyway. Let's see if it chops it up. And in the end, yeah, and it seems to have enough grunt to cut hair. Well, there you are. So there it is, the Silvercrest SNOT 1.5 version A1 Nasen- und Ohrhaartrimmer, nose and ear hair trimmer.